All right, all right, all right. Welcome to the Counselor's Corner, the broadcast where we dive into the toughest topics, spark meaningful conversations. I am your host, David Lorenzo Glover, aka the Controversial Counselor. Joining me as my co host, the Big Bad Wolf, Herb Lewis.
Ow!
We are both excited to explore the complexities of our world with you. On this show, we're committed to creating a safe space for open and honest dialogue where diverse perspectives meet and ideals are challenged. We tackle the issues that matter most, from social justice and politics to culture and personal growth. Join us as we navigate the gray areas, confront our biases, and discover new truths. Let's get real, let's get honest, and let's talk. Tonight, the title of our broadcast will be Growth Over Comfort. I often say that you must be uncomfortable to get comfortable. One of the most significant benefits of doing things that make you uncomfortable is that it pushes you to new heights. Whether it's taking on a new project, giving a presentation, pitching a new idea, stepping outside of your comfort zone forces you to challenge your limitations and grow in new ways. Tonight is open talk time, so anything could be thrown on the table. Are you ready to eat? Please like and share our video, and don't forget to tell a coworker to subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Controversial Counselor. We are still sitting at 919 subs, 81 away from 1K. Stay with us, people. We are going to get there. All right. So here you have it. Another night in the counselor's corner. It's getting a little nippy outside, so fall is definitely kicking in. And hey, we ready to bring some heat in the counselor's corner to warm up y'all souls. So, what's good with you, Big Bad Wolf?
Man, I'm preparing the place for winter quarters, man. And I cleaned out the attic too. I'm getting ready to redo that. I'm gonna put library in, music studio, got a keyboard and a guitar, do some storage space, and I'm gonna eventually turn it into a place where I can do the content from up there, so y'all don't have to look at my barren walls. Kind of a studio in-house situation. But other than that, man, there's the weight loss is going. I'm at 261. Yeah, I got some wings and pizza on tap tonight, just in case somebody's asking. But the portions are gonna be much, much smaller. I kind of figured out how I can have the best of both worlds. Now I didn't do a workout today, so I'm kind of mildly disappointed, but I was up since 6 o'clock this morning doing laundry, bouncing around the house doing a few things. So I'm, all in all, I can't complain. Yeah, and I got another. Not gonna speak too much on it, but I'm looking at long term business venture for myself. So that's coming into the fold as well. And I gotta get this goddamn book out now. I gotta I gotta look to get this shit done by Christmas. And it really isn't a whole lot. So I don't have any excuses for that. But other than that, man, I can't complain. Things are going well.
All right, all right. Same old here. Nothing new. Pretty much during this time is all about it. The schoolhouse really haven't dived into anything personal other than just trying to bring daily content in the counselor's corner and promoting this show, the counselor's corner, and that's about it. Sooner or later, I'll settle back in and wind down and see what I want to venture off with next, and that has everything to do with growth over comfort. And a lot of times, people we get just complacent and comfortable with our situation, and you may not desire to do anything else because you figure like, hey, bills is paid. I got a place to live. I could get around. Um, and even in relationships, people, just get comfortable. So that's the question you got to ask yourself: do you prefer to grow, or or grow over just being comfortable? Some people are constantly trying to grow and make changes. So that's something you have to ask yourself. But tonight is open talk time. So we're going to, you know, talk about some conversations, try to push a few buttons here and there and see where it goes. We got Sweetie in the house and Anita Baker.
Hello.
Hello.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Anything
How's,
anything good with you?
yeah, I did something cool today. I did a social painting. I decided to go by myself, and it was a glow in the dark one. So here it is. I don't know if you guys can see it.
Yeah.
Can you see it? I'm using
Mhm.
my black flashlight. But yeah, this was a fun one. It was cool. Some of it we painted in the dark with the glow in the dark paints.
Quite
Yeah, it was pretty fun.
that's cool. That's cool.
Other
Quite
than that, oops, I knocked over my doggone lamp. Okay, now you can maybe see it.
No, we can see. We
Oh,
saw it
okay.
with the light out. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks different with the light on though. Eh, other than that, nothing exciting going on. Buddy's getting worse. He had like a stroke or a seizure or something earlier. So, yeah, that. He's got a level 4 heart murmur, so I don't know how long he has. But we're doing the best we can here, huh, bud? Other than that, nothing exciting going on.
All right, all right. So, Herb, when you think of growth over comfort, what resonates in your head?
Man, this I was kind of salivating when I really sat down and thought about it. But I said to myself, I said, when did I grow the most? And I looked at my failures. I looked at when I dropped out of high school, when I was academically dismissed from college, when I was knocked off the ballot for city council, when I didn't win elections for the 4 times I ran for school board. Those were they were defining moments for me because I had to face in some situations the reality was uncertain, especially you know and unbeknown to me at the time, especially when I dropped out of high school and then when I was academically dismissed from college. I didn't know what I was going to do, you know, and high school was a little different because I was still at home. But when I was academically dismissed from college, I wasn't quite out on my own in terms of having an apartment or home. So I remember sitting around, and when the end of August came in the beginning of the semester, I'm just like, yo, this is just weird. For like the last 2 years, I've been going to class. And now I'm not doing that. So now, I'm part of the workforce in terms of, working because I was working in college. So, it was easy enough for me to, to slide into full-time work. So I didn't lose anything on that end. The one thing I do recall was I never stopped learning. So while I didn't achieve an academic degree, I still became, a person on a track to develop personally, professionally, even academically, even though that line of academia wasn't in any particular pursuit. In other words, it wasn't geared towards any degree. So, it was I don't even know how really to describe it other than to say it, it was uncertain, but at least I knew I was moving forward. I wasn't moving backwards. I wasn't regressing. I didn't develop any bad habits. I didn't turn around and start drinking. I didn't abuse drugs. And the road ahead was always, brighter than the day behind me. The day behind me, you say, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I know I got to get to work. So that was always that silver lining, at least I had some money in my pocket. I'm not broke. I'm not destitute. I'm still able to do all the things, I want to do. And I have a little bit more time to do them. So if I want to go out and party, I can go out and party. And if I want to do this on the weekends, I don't have to worry about being back to campus. Because that was one of the things I always did on Sunday nights was we would get in a car and we would roll up to Hamilton and we would hang out there. And then we breaking our necks to get back to campus, so we can get up for those morning classes. So I didn't have to do all that. So, it was just like, okay, I can settle into this new groove. I can enjoy some of this, some of my youth, because when I was going to college, I didn't go to frat parties because I worked on the weekends. So I kind of missed all that. So I was like, okay, now I could go hang out on the weekends. I can go to Caribana. I could do this. I could do that. I could go up to Toronto on a Friday night, get back Saturday morning. So it was a mixed bag, but that was the first thing that came to my mind was, the failures and how I actually grew from them, because, with the political endeavors, I met so many people that I otherwise wouldn't have met. And some of those people I'm still friends with to today. So it's a mixed bag, but that was definitely the first thing that I pulled out was the growth from my failures.
All right. Let me tackle that as well. And when you mentioned being being academically dismissed, I remember and I've shared this before when I had that meeting, and I think I was on probation or warning status. Now probably hit probation status, and like you said, the thought, my thinking was, because all I ever knew was to go to Nag University. My grandmother worked there. My mother, my aunts, them had jobs there at different times during their younger years. So all I knew was I'm going to Nag University. But then when I was about to face the possibility of being kicked out, I was never one who had any like manual skills with my hands, like labor trade work. So all I ever thought about, okay, I'm gonna go there and get my degree and probably have some type of office job. But I didn't put in the work until I had that one meeting where, shout out to Tony Miller, who got in my ass and pretty much cussed me out based on, because he vouched for me so much, and I had pretty much let him down and was on the way to let my siblings down, my mother, my grandparents, and I was feeling real uncomfortable. When I had that meeting, I went back to my room, sat at the edge of the bed, and like cried, like, yo, like what the hell am I gonna do?
It's real.
What the hell am I gonna do? Like, then I was like, now working at McDonald's or something like that's not an option. But I didn't know. So then, I just came, buckled up, changed up some of the things I was doing, spent more time in the library, and then the results were different. And to the one point, I went back to Tony and started showing him like some of the grades that I was getting at the time. And he one day he kind of told me like, yo, why the fuck you keep coming over here showing me this? And y'all like, yo, how is he a counselor or whatever the case is? But he was real. And we already had a relationship anyways, as far as that, because he's the father of my cousins. So I was like, well, I'm just letting you know. Then he's like, yo, he's like, I knew you could do this shit all along. He says, so I'm not impressed. What I'm disappointed is that you let all the other distractions get in your way of being successful, and now, you're doing what you should have did from day one. And I had to respect that. And the rest is history. I went on to graduate, but that feeling of being uncomfortable, of not knowing what was the next move, made me grow, made me change, because I could have simply kept doing what I was doing. And he pointed out a lot of things. He said, think about it. Some of the people that you came up in here with, they're no longer here.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, and they're probably working some bullshit ass jobs. And then he said, so what's next for you? You going, he's like, I don't think you cut to be working in no plant. He said, you ain't the type to be out on the streets hustling. So what's next? Had to think about it. So I had to get right. So that was one of the times I was like, yo, this is a scary thought. So that comes to mind. Numerous other things, but I'll just start off with that. Anita, you got anything you can share?
Yep. Um, Looking back, I feel like after me and my best friend, we always had jobs. We always had our own money. Um, After high school, we moved into an apartment, and I didn't really think about it until a little later on in life. Like, I thought it was easy back then, and then real life adult hit me, and I was like, I've overcome and a lot of things, and I feel like it was a lot easier when I was just earning my own money, partying, going to NU partying, and then I joined the army. I say basic training and
Mm-hmm.
my job school wasn't that bad. But when you get into the real army, the real job, it becomes a little bit more challenging. And then, so when I made the rank of sergeant and I was in charge of people, I was like, that school, my sergeant school, that was tough. And I was always in the back of my mind, like scared to fail. And then I made it. And then throughout the army, I had to do army stuff, be in charge of soldiers. Plus, I had relationships, like long term relationships that weren't always, I say, easy. Well, relationships aren't meant to be easy. I guess you got to keep working at it. But a lot of things failed in relationships, and hurtful things happened. And, a lot of times I felt like it was the end of the world. And looking back at it, I'm like, well, I was uncomfortable then, and I didn't think that feeling was going to pass. You know, battling how to be a female sergeant and people not respecting my leadership skills as a sergeant, and that part was challenging. Um, and like I said, relationships. While I was in the army, you're in the army 24/7. Now you got a relationship piled on that you thought was going in the right direction, then you got problems, and then breakup, and then I was like, oh man, this is the end of the world. I was so sad. But then I got through it, and I got through everything. Um, and now moving back here to Niagara Falls is a whole different world, adjusting to the civilian world, I'll say. And yeah, a lot of things are uncomfortable because the army was the only thing I knew from age 18 to 30 something. And now I have to adjust to a whole new world. It's very uncomfortable. And then there's this thing where I was graduated from NU and I had to do the senior thesis, I think it was. And there's this thing like scared to fail or scared to succeed, right? And I think in a way it was both. so I didn't do my senior thesis. I just, it was like a 15, 20 page paper, whatever. I was doing it on food science, lab created meat. And I decided it was too overwhelming. I couldn't do it. And I never did it. I conditionally graduated. And then a few years later, I said, I just cannot do this. I got an F in that, which I never got an F because I'm an overachiever. But that part was difficult for me to wrap my head around, that all this time I've succeeded at everything I've done since high school. And then now I have to take an F because I wasn't sure if I was scared to try or scared to actually do it and succeed, which sounds weird, but it's actually a thing. But now, like I said, looking back, when you're an adult, almost 50, you have all the scars from the past, which may feel like scars, but then you think about how much you've grown and learned since then. And then you think, okay, it's going to be all right. I have a lot of growing and learning still to do, which is uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable when you don't try, but then when you try, it's like, yeah, I don't know how this is going to go.
All right. So one of the things came up with that title, growth over comfort. But I think what I wanted to talk about was some kind of uncomfortable topics, which would help people grow as well. So it's just not always about our personal growth. It might just be also other topics. And one of the first ones I want to think about is put out there is social media harming society more than it helps. And I guess that's a question that's people have to think about. I don't think it's going anywhere. Well, I always said that they should start charging for it, and then that would alleviate some of the nonsense. People that's seriously using it, then they would be the ones that would pay, and the ones who like to bring drama and just foolishness, that would just be an extra probably bill for them, and they'll probably would disappear. But there's a lot of good for it, but then there's a lot of nonsense too, and a lot of times people gravitate toward the nonsense, and that's what get you the views and go viral and stuff like that. So that's the question: is it causing more harm or good?
I'll answer that question like this. Social media is a tool, and as always, a tool is only as useful as the individual wielding it. So, and it's just like Daphne said, social media depends on how you use it and who is in your friends and circles too. And I wholeheartedly agree with that. If you're hanging out with people who are, productive, they're constructive in their endeavors, the social media is great. It's the old adage that what is it? Wealthy people talk about ideals, rich people talk about either ideals or concepts. Wealthy people talk about something else, and then poor people talk about people, something like that. I can't remember. So if I butchered the quote, please forgive me. But I know some of the things that I did, like when I started running for office, one of the first things that I started doing was started putting out information via Facebook, because Facebook is pretty much the one that I predominantly use the most. I have an Instagram. I think I have either it's an Instagram account or I can't remember the other one. I think it's Instagram, and it's not even under my name; it's under a pseudonym. and then I have one on TikTok that I never use. So, yeah, it's. I mean, you got people that are out here who have nothing else better to do. So, what they put on social media either causes harm or it ain't about nothing, and they just it's like they post their every thought, and then when people talk about them, they wonder why. I'm just like, I don't necessarily see. I don't consider LinkedIn to be social media in that regard because what I use LinkedIn for is strictly professional. Now I know LinkedIn's not the only professional website out there, but from what I understand, it's certainly one of the more notable ones. So I don't necessarily consider LinkedIn, but I really haven't used it in that regard because I haven't really branched out into doing things via LinkedIn. I suppose as I branch out into a few more professional fields, I'll probably use LinkedIn more. But right now, I'm kind of set. Even though this new endeavor is going to depending on how successful it is, it might take me away from corporate America and it just simply might put me into going into business myself, which is kind of a cool thing, if you will. But it's certainly is going to put more pressure on me to perform, to another level that I believe I'm more than capable of. I just have to make sure that I do it because there will be no safety net. There's not going to, if I don't work, and I mean as much the same now, if I don't work, there's not going to be any paycheck. There's no vacation time. There's no sick time, whatever it is. But the beauty from this particular endeavor is I'll be able to work remote and I'll be able to work from home if I choose to. So it's going to give me that kind of freedom. So there's all kinds of things that are working for me in terms of getting uncomfortable to get comfortable to get to another level. So I don't know. All I can say is stay tuned because I've already started putting together the blueprint for it. I'm going to reach out to a couple other people and see if anybody else is actually doing what I'm getting ready to do. And if so, I'll contact them and see what kind of success they have and I'll move from there. But one thing is for certain, I'm not standing pat on what I have. I can't afford to, even though I don't need that kind of money, but I want that kind of money because that kind of money gives me that kind of freedom.
Mhm. I don't take, the only thing I really use is, oops. Dang, Herbert, you need some Q-tips over there?
I think so.
The only thing I really use is Facebook. I have Instagram, but I don't really know how to use it. LinkedIn, I don't even really use that either. Once in a while I get on there to connect with people just to network. And then the other thing, Snapchat, I know there's some crazy stuff that goes on Snapchat sometimes, but me and my 7-year-old nephew just use it to be silly. And then we'll do some little snaps and send it to my mom and, back and forth. But with Facebook, sometimes I really get tired of seeing everybody wants to be a digital creator these days. And I'm like, oh my goodness, this is just too much. And then I do post stuff, but I post like silly stuff or I post something that resonates with me a long time ago during certain periods of my life. And I post things that I know some of my friends are going through. Occasionally I'll tag them, but I think Facebook is kind of it seems like the new thing with these kids growing up, and then you could Facebook Live and there's a whole bunch of garbage, like people getting in fights and people Facebook Live that and not even breaking it up, just like watching like people fight, and I think it's dangerous in my opinion. These kids growing up now these days, they use that for everything. and it can have a bad effect on them because now they're only using Facebook to be social, and they forgot or they haven't learned how to interact face to face, that social interaction in person. So in that case, I think it can be a detriment to their upbringing, and adults too. Now that Facebook is so big, and TikTok and IG, like people are really forgot how to have that face to face interaction and actually be social, which I think is I'll say having that social interaction face to face is, I'll say, like a lost art with people growing up and adults these days. So I think it could be good, it could be bad, could influence you the wrong way, and it could just be for silly fun. My mom, she finds recipes and she inbox me recipes like every day. And I'm like, Ma, did you inbox to me just to save it for yourself, or do you really expect me to make this? So basically, I just think it's silly. I don't have any Facebook drama. I mean, I just think that's quite silly, and it does also include who's your circle of friends on Facebook, and if they're shit starters or instigators or manipulative, then yeah, it can be pretty dramatic. But other than that, I just use it just for fun.
You're muted, Dave.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah,
So a lot of it is how you respond to it. So people put things out there, and even sometimes when I throw something out there, and people get upset about it, and it's like, shit, why respond to it? Like people post stuff all day long. It's how you react to it. Uh, like I said on the No Friday Foolishness, 10%. 10% of most stuff is like what happens, and then like 90% of it is how you react to it, and it's the way people react. So if you're gonna react to everything, then of course you gave that person that power, and a lot of times that's why people feel powerless, because people put stuff out there and they know that people are gonna react to it, and they say to themselves, got them." Um, each time. So like it's nothing that, like, people get so triggered by stuff that they can't help but to respond. So that's what kind of can make it harmful, that you let everything get to you. You let every post, every situation get to you. You're a triggered individual.
Mm-hmm.
Probably need counseling or something. Because anything put out there, you're gonna respond to it. And people know that, and they don't necessarily tag you. You just don't have shit going on, and you see everything, and you get bothered by it. But to go back to LinkedIn, and I mentioned this before, I remember one of the most powerful tools that they had. Uh, they had this ranking, and it was like it was like all the surrounding areas of Baltimore County, and it probably was for other places too, but the one I was in, because obviously I'm in Baltimore, so it had the rankings. And I, being a competitor that I am, I enjoyed that so much. They based it on you putting out posts and people responding, people viewing your posts and all that. And I enjoyed it so much to climb all the way up to, I think I got to number 3 on the list. Out of, I don't know, it might have been like out of 7,000 people that was a part of LinkedIn in that area. And, it was like the superintendent, uh, presidents and CEOs of companies. And I don't even remember where I started off at. Probably in the 50s something, like in the 50s or something. Maybe maybe higher than that, but I worked my way all the way to number 3. And at the time, our superintendent was number 1 for months, years. And then I remember, and what's the funny thing, and we always laugh about it. One of my coworkers, he had got involved in it. Then somehow he shot up to like, he actually, I don't know if he was the first one to take the superintendent down and became number 1. So he came into my office the one day, and I was like, "Yo, dude, how the fuck did you get to be number 1? And you don't even have a profile picture up." And, I was like, I don't get it. I don't understand, because it was that competitive. I was like, I've been trying to chop down to get to that spot. You come out of nowhere and you get number 1. I don't know how long he stayed on top, but it was just the fact that they had that ranking, and then all of a sudden they did away with it. I don't know why, but I think that was it was very inspiring, and because it was like a battle. I could be number 7, and then the next few days I could be dropped down to number 14. So I look at that like, who the fuck passed me like that? So there would make me get uncomfortable and say, time for me to put out some more stuff, more content, to get back, to get my spot back. So that was a great feature, because sometimes I think we need more competition. People need and when you don't have competition, that's when you have comfort. Some people
Yeah.
competitive for the wrong reasons,
Mhm.
trying to outdo people and this or that. But if it's just something to try to elevate yourself, there's nothing wrong with like friendly competition. And I think we need more of that, because right now I could say, far as these kids, many of them have no desire to be competitive, to be the top person in their class. I used to look forward to getting result. When the teachers used to hand back papers and you get your test scores on there. I should look forward to get mine's back and be like,
Nice.
okay, and uh, I don't, I don't see that. I don't see that. I haven't seen that in years. Probably since I left the high school level, and right now, of course, in middle school, it's that time to get competitive. Because soon as you walk in, day one, as a ninth grader, life begins.
Mhm.
It's make or break. As a ninth grader, it's a make or break, and I don't see the competitive fire as far as that. So that kind of goes off of the original point, but trying to just connect all the pieces. So that's that.
To follow that up, I think a lot of people have failed to actually understand something that's very, very nuanced in how you can use Facebook and conflict to make yourself better. And what I mean by that is this: everybody known to man, everybody ever born, has something that they don't do well initially. Some people don't handle conflict well. They don't handle conflict with family members, co-workers, exes well. Social media is the perfect proving ground to deal with some of those things. And here's what I mean. Take a situation that has the potential to be volatile. And I'll use this example. I was at work and I overheard a conversation, eavesdropping again, about the value or the usefulness of having a second language. Now, the guy was saying that, these students that actually don't learn the language, they just are getting passing grades and it's not functional. It was a father, his son, and I guess a family friend. Now, the youth in question was 16. I said, well, if you look at the way things are going now, for him, he's going to be in a global market where knowing a second language may not necessarily be useful here right now for him, but it certainly is beneficial because, as with any language, once you learn the principles and the basis of a language, you can learn just about any language on the planet. And from that aspect, it is invaluable, especially in this country now where we have, and this is something you mentioned, Dave, where we have the migrant issue. People, and this guy, I'm not going to mention what city they were from. This guy was so hell bent on the fact that he didn't believe for any American that knowing a second language is beneficial. I'm just like, dude, you don't get it. And another gentleman that was off to the side who was working security was telling him that he knows multiple languages. Now, the guy made the assumption that he was Hispanic when he was biracial. And the conversation kind of took on that tilt. And then the guy started getting profane. Normally, when someone is confronted, or you're having a discussion and somebody steps out of character, so to say, and that profanity comes out, all of a sudden now that becomes volatile. Same thing happens in social media. Somebody will say something wayward, and as opposed to just maintaining decorum and not escalating, some people escalate. Use social media in that way to maintain a level, because if you can do it using words, and then you can transition from binary language, glass and plastic, to real life, all of a sudden now the things that used to irritate you, now you just say, you know what? You dismiss it and you step over like there's a crack in the sidewalk and you keep going. And I think a lot of people don't realize that that is a hidden way that you can use social media. I know I've done it, and I've done it so well that I'm just to the point, I'm just like, okay, this dude's a troll. Or sometimes, yeah, I'll troll people. I'm like, yeah, this dude's an idiot. So let me have some fun with this fool. Yes, I'm guilty. The wolf is guilty of being a troll at times. My brother said it. I'm like, yeah, I know. Some people just need to be tweaked. Some people just need to be poked, just so you can say, hey, stop being an idiot. Don't get on here trying to mess with people, trying to get people excited so you can have some fun at their expense, because you might be the one who's actually being toyed with. But that's as far as I can see it, that is something that I think a lot of people would benefit from, especially people that are going through certain situations and they need to test how far they've come to see if they can actually deal with idiots or deal with certain situations and not explode or overreact. Social media is a perfect place for that. Because if you overreact, guess what? There's nobody there to say, hey, look, calm down. You can just get up, walk away, and just say, go back, sit down and read this and say, you know what? It's not worth the hassle. It's not worth me getting worked up. It's not worth me getting my blood pressure up. You know what? Have a nice day. And I see a lot of people do that. Whereas they used to argue, they say, you know what? It ain't worth it.
Yeah. Any other points before I go on, Herb, that you had when you thought about this?
Yeah. I got four other points outside of failures. When we hear the term growth, what comes to mind? Is it physical growth, mental, spiritual, financial? Often men are told to grow up. What exactly does that mean? And who exactly does that benefit? Case in point, there's a lot of talk now going on about how men are not living up to their potential, how they're not going out getting those jobs that pay a lot of money so they can raise the traditional family, so the wife can be a stay-at-home mother, all those things. And while I agree there's men doing that, if that man doesn't want to do that, then why should he be compelled to do it? If he's comfortable where he is in his mother's basement on his PS4 or 5, or living with a roommate, they snacking on Doritos, dirty socks all over the place, and whatever it is, why is that such a bad thing? Especially if they're not harming anyone, because women can't use them now. Women can't marry them. They're not producing children. I don't know. My thing is, look, if you ain't harming nobody, you ain't hurting nobody, hey, do you. That look like you playing Dungeons and Dragons, or when I was in my mid to late 20s, it was SOCOM, Madden, Fight Night, all those games you can play online, because a lot of people don't realize that a lot of guys that play those games, especially now with the advent of being able to play online and having a headset and being able to talk to people, you have entire communities that have sprung up behind that. And then you have some people who are actually playing these games, they're making some bank. So while people are making fun of them, saying, "Oh, you ain't got nothing going," these cats are sitting on small fortunes, and you go into some of the homes, and their homes are laid in terms of online access, all this other stuff. So I mean, there's that particular lane that a lot of people, a lot of men anyway, and women, some people will say to women, "Oh, you're an OnlyFans model. You ain't doing nothing," and she pulling in $6,000-7,000 a month, showing her toes, showing her in a bikini. I mean, are we gonna tell her to go beyond that? She might spend 5-6 years doing that, and she come out with $250,000. Now she's in a position to open a business, travel. I mean, there's so many different ways that a person can grow. And some people will look at that and say, "Oh, but that's not growth." Well, who determines what growth is for you? And I think a lot of people get caught up in that. They keep trying to impress somebody else, as opposed to saying, "Hey, look, wait a minute. I have everything that I need to live the life that I want to live. Why am I out here trying to impress this individual? Because this individual says that I need to grow." Well, what exactly am I supposed to grow into? Because I remember, being younger, people told me, have a kid, it'll help settle you down. Well, what the hell is more settled than going to work and paying taxes and doing all the other things I do? Well, that's different. How? Because you had a kid? So that means I gotta have a kid. You know what? I like walking around the house with nothing on. I like sitting in the bathroom, defecating with the bathroom door open. That's growth for me. I like, matter of fact, my cats are sitting over there. Some people say, "Look, I don't want no animals in my house." Okay, that's cool, but just at your house. So, if I wanted to have the couch leaning up against the wall, those are all the things I could do. But, when I'm ready to move, I have the ability to do that. And a lot of people, they get caught up. Like I said, seeking approval for somebody else because that's what they think growth is. Well, this person has this home, this person drives this car, you know, excuse me. If maybe if I go get this car, they'll think I've grown some. Well, let me ask this question. What's the use in going out and getting a new car, even if you can afford it, to add a $400 or $500 financial burden to your life when you don't need it? Just to impress somebody else that don't really care? Just to try and pick up the hot girl who only wants you because you had a car? Yeah, man, go invest that. Go travel. Go do all the other things that you want to do while you can. And all that other stuff, it will come back around because, like they say, the same people who you pass up going up the ladder, the same people you're going to pass going down. So I would tell people, hey, look, once you start climbing the ladder of success, do what you need to do to maintain that level of success so you don't have to worry about going back down. And then when you want to ascend to the next level, you're set. So even if you do fail, your failures don't doom you to the point where you have to start all over and you have absolutely nothing. You can say, okay, look, I can go back home. I got a nice warm bed. My needs are taken care of. I can start over again. And if I want to try and succeed with this particular endeavor, I can do that. If I want to try another endeavor, I can do that as well. So growth comes in a lot of different ways. Just don't limit yourself to thinking that, growth is physical, it's only mental, it's only spiritual, or it's financial. You can take all four of those components and you can grow exponentially in each direction. So the next, and I'll say it like this. So who you were at your high school's 10-year reunion, your 20-year reunion, and your 30-year reunion, people say, damn, you just keep growing. You get bigger and bigger and bigger. Which is the goal? The goal is to always increase, always improve. David was talking about being competitive. Sometimes the person that you need to be competitive with is yourself. It's no one else, because as long as you are growing according to what you need and what you want, that should be the ultimate barometer for you to measure. Nothing else.
All right. Anita, you got anything you want to add to that?
Not really. I think Herbert covered it all. But without failures, you can't grow. Without failures, you can't learn different ways of doing things. If we were all the same, then what would we learn? What discoveries would we have about ourselves, about the world, the universe, etc.? So I think it's very interesting that everybody is different and they all add a different aspect. Like everybody adds to the pie. All the ingredients add up to a pot roast, beef stew. And I think that's amazing. That's the amazing thing about people, is that we do have the ability to grow in all kinds of ways. And there's other ways to do things except for one. And what you fail at, the next time you'll learn from that lesson and be more successful. Right now I'm working on my spiritual growth, because I grew up Jehovah's Witness, and in the Army I went to non-denominational services even after the Army. And then I don't know, a few weeks ago, I guess I was thinking, I've become so worldly, as my family would say, thinking so worldly. So that's one thing I'm working on, my spiritual growth, and a couple other things. But also one of the other things is that everybody has their personal journey. And I remember I was just dating somebody, you know, getting to know them. And I don't know what the conversation was about. I don't remember. But I was like, yo, you can't judge yourself like on my path. Like, my journey is not your journey. Your journey is not my journey. I'm working on this and that. I have this journey to go, this path to go. So then he had to think about it, and he's like, oh, okay, yeah, you're right. I was like, yeah. So there's that.
All right. Let's see what else. What else? This is one that's big, and it's just I think I had mentioned something that was happening here in Baltimore that the adult crimes have decreased, but the adolescent crimes have increased. Uh, so one of the things, are parents legally responsible for their children's actions? Should they be getting time? When you got the kids out here stealing cars or doing things or getting a gun from the household, going shooting up a school and things of that nature. Should parents be right along with them, sitting in the cell? For many of it, for a lot of it, sometimes I think they need something. They need something because a lot of these kids out here freelancing, doing what the hell they want to do. And that needs to stop. That needs to stop. And a lot of it is I don't think some of the parents have reached their maximum potential in the kids, whatever they out there doing, long as they bringing money into the household, it kind of shuts the parents up.
That's interesting.
I want to say it's a slippery slope, but at the same point in time, you know, if a parent is being irresponsible with the child, CPS steps in and takes that child. So I mean, it is, at least I believe, and I could be wrong. People know far more about this than I do. To me, it would seem to be an extension of that, you know, before CPS gets involved. Because let's face it, once CPS steps in and takes that child, especially if that child has to be gone for an extended time, all it does is burden the system. And a system doesn't need to be, especially with what we have in the United States of America, this system doesn't need to be burdened with having someone else take care of someone else's child, regardless of the circumstances, unless that particular parent becomes incapacitated or prematurely transitions. So, you know, that might be the wake-up call that a lot of people need. They will say, hey, look, Mr. Larrabee across the street, man, he just, you know, he got hit with 30 days house arrest. And you don't necessarily have to send somebody to jail to hold them accountable. Just think about it like this. Imagine 30 days house arrest for an adult. You can't go nowhere without an ankle monitor. The only place you can go is to work, grocery shopping, and that's it. You got to come home. You got a curfew. All because your kid jumped on somebody else and injured them to the point where they had to seek medical attention. I think some adults would just say, hey, look, bring your ass here. You know, when the street lights is on, you in the front yard. And maybe we need to get back to some of those old school ways. Hey, look, they used to play the opening credits to the 11 o'clock newscast. It's 11 o'clock. Do you know where your children are? Some of these parents don't. Some of these parents say, hey, look, they're having a sleepover with Becky. Shout out to Coach CGA. He was just talking about this on a podcast. You got parents now that are divorced. So they're playing each parent against against the other. Hey, look, can I go spend the night over Jason's house? Well, where's Jason live? I'm just right across the street. You met his father. Okay, yeah. Meanwhile, Jason's father's telling you that he's going to spend the night over Chris's house. Yo, you met him before. Oh, yeah, sure. Next thing you know, these two kids is out gallivanting at 10:30 in the morning, terrorizing the neighborhood, being the Kia boys, doing all this other stuff. You get a call as a parent at 12:30 in the morning saying, it's a call from this correctional facility or some juvenile facility, and your child's name is attached to it. You say, well, wait a minute. You're supposed to be at Chris's house. What the hell are you doing out? What? Whoa. You lied to me? Oh, yeah. You know what? Sit your ass in jail. Now, it's a different story if they come knocking on your door and say, are you such and such parent? Yeah. Well, your child was out doing this, and, you're responsible for your child, so we're arresting you too. So you can't do that. I didn't do anything. Well, you know what? Your child is under your custody, under your supervision. They're 16. They're a minor. So, the state has passed some laws that says any child that's a minor that is picked up for a crime, we're going to go get the parent that has custody, and they're going to sit right alongside them. When it comes time to answer for that crime, hey, you're going to be charged too. I think a lot of parents will start thinking twice and start keeping better track of their kids. But hey, what do I know? I don't have any children.
It's about it's about establishing rules and norms and stuff like that, and to know. Because remember, a couple of weeks ago we talked about kids study you, so they know what time you go to bed. They know which they're capable to pull off. They know if they can sneak the opposite sex or some other, in this case, in this day and age, the same sex. Who knows? In the house, they know this. And if you're not on top of your game, or if you don't show consistency, and I think that's the key. If you show consistency, they'll know. Like, nah, man, my dad be tripping over that. My mom, she ain't having that. So they'll know. Like, I gotta I can't be out here like that. I gotta get back in, or I can't do all this. And you're gonna get peer pressure. People are gonna try to get you this way their way, because they may have a loosey goosey type of situation. But when you know your situation is firm and tight, most of them kids, if you have that voice of criticism in your head, you'll know. And I can remember for me, I used to that voice used to be like, nah, I only could take it so far. I only could take it so far. And then I would yield to doing the right thing. Because sometimes your friends, they're gonna try to pull you in several directions, and that's when you eventually weed out people as you get older. But in this case, the parents who don't do shit, ain't established nothing, kids running around here. I see it all the time. I'm like, why is these little elementary kids? It's freaking pitch black out here, and it's 8 something at night. Why ain't they? You feeding them dinner? They taking a bath and getting ready for school the next day. What is all this about? What is all this about? I don't understand. I don't understand what they're doing, what's going on. But again, we talk about this all the time. And you wonder why they're getting picked up by somebody else. They're getting scooped up. So until they start putting some charges probably on some parents, and it start hitting home, then we'll continue getting what we're getting. So I in most cases say, yeah, parents should be charged for some of the things that their kids do because they're showing negligence if they're out there at a certain time. If you're 14, 15, and you out stealing cars and your parent has no idea where you at, then their ass need to be somebody need to wake them up. And
I thought.
and they need to be hit with that. Simple as that.
Yeah, I think if you hit a parent with a grand theft auto, that mess will circulate very quickly. Especially we were just talking about with the advent of social media, all these parents will be like, "Look, such and such just got hit with a grand theft auto charge before their child still in the car." You think parents aren't gonna pay attention? Yeah, I think they will.
I think it's a slippery slope, like Herbert said. It depends on the responsibility of the parents, but sometimes kids are a little bit they push the envelope a little bit too far. And I remember, well, I grew up kind of strict, but I wasn't a bad kid. There's one particular weekend, my mom, my sister, and my mom's fiance were supposed to go camping. We had a cabin out by Darien Lake. I was supposed to be at my dad's house for the weekend. But I walked all the way to my dad's house and he wasn't home. So I was like, okay, dad's not home. I stayed home, had a little party.
The little Jimmy house, yeah.
It was a little party. I had some older friends and they came over. We had a little party until wee hours of the morning. Well, I wasn't expecting my mom's fiance to come home early in the morning to be checking the mail. I was in trouble. He came in and people running out the back door. I was like, oh, I know I'm in trouble. But I was trying to push the envelope and see how much I could get away with without people knowing. That was not a good idea. Not a good idea. So I had to ride all the way back to the cabin, being lectured, and then I was grounded at the campsite. I had to stay there. I couldn't hang out with my friends at the campground. I had to go everywhere with my sister that's 8 years younger than me.
Yeah, that's how 3 becomes the magic number.
I was like so ashamed. And then my mom wanted to put me on probation. I'm like, yeah, but I didn't do anything. She wanted to put me on probation, birth control. Like, Mom, I'm not sexually active. I didn't do anything. And that's all it took for having an overnight party when I wasn't supposed to be home. I was supposed to be at my dad's. I think that's about the worst thing I did besides getting caught skipping school one day.
See, that's child. That right there is we talking about somebody stealing cars, shooting people, things of that nature. That's a whole different level.
Right, but to me that was like crime level to me because I was a good kid. I never tried to push the envelope like that. So then we have and that was just an example of some parents discipline their children and some parents try to stick up for their children, such as in school. Why are you yelling at my kid and this and that? Well, your kid was acting up. And then they try to back up their child for bad behavior because they were disciplined. That just doesn't make any sense. I see a lot of that these days. But I don't necessarily think that parents should go to jail for what their kids do. because sometimes it's hard to control your kids.
I will say that like this. Rarely, and I'll say out of 100 kids, regardless of their, whether they're raised in a single home, whether it's a mother or father or couple, married couple or cohabitating couple, if you start young enough with discipline, structure, rarely out of that 100 kids, you're going to have more than 10 stray from that. Not until they at least get to the age of maybe 17, 18, or they're out of high school. That's when most kids will start to get into wayward behavior because, and I'll use myself as an example. I was in and out of foster care up until the age of 16 till I decided to run away. But it was never in my nature to do anything that would put me in harm's way, meaning cause harm to myself to where I would have to go to the hospital other than maybe a broken bone or something like that, or B, to put somebody else in that situation to where they would have to go to the hospital. And I think even now, even with today's world that seems to be such a laissez-faire world when it comes to policing the behaviors of kids, I think inherently most kids do not want to see somebody that they know suffer. That's kids aren't built to take that kind of to deal with that kind of trauma, comparatively speaking, because when we grew up, broken bones were commonplace, gunplay wasn't. There wasn't a whole lot of guns around when we were kids, regardless of what ethnicity you come from, because I know people tend to associate Caucasian people with being gun nuts. It just wasn't like that because safety was always practiced and it was taught, and most of all, it was expected. So no matter who you were, there were certain things, no matter what side of the tracks you came from, it was commonplace. You don't open the door for nobody. You don't go over nobody's houses that your parents don't know. You don't do stuff that your parents didn't do. You were talking about your situation, Anita, which is age appropriate. But then there are things that aren't age appropriate, and I don't care who you are, no matter what age you reach, bringing a firearm to school, never, ever, ever. And we seem to have a proliferation of that. And I think that's one of the things that David is talking about when he mentions this, because no child that I know has the ability to walk into a store and purchase a firearm. So the question becomes, where are they getting this firearm from? And if they're getting it from home, that means the parents being irresponsible with a lethal weapon. So if the kid gets hold of it, then you got to start looking at what's enabling this child to take that path. So if you don't root out the root cause, then that behavior is probably going to continue for another child that's in that person's custody. This is why CPS comes in and say, hey, look, if one child is being negatively impacted, then there's a very good chance that the rest of those children, especially if they're younger, are witnessing what this child is doing, and they may follow in that person's footsteps, especially if they're easily influenced. And I think that's where social media, we come back to this, that's where social media catches a lot of kids. This is why I said if I were a parent, my child wouldn't have access to a smartphone or a social media until they reached the age of 16, or they demonstrated the ability to be accountable for their decision making. Because let's face it, these kids at their respective ages are not what we were when we were their age. We were latchkey kids. We used to be able to go home from school, prepare something to eat, stay out of harm's way. The average 16-year-old right now, I would not trust most of them to do that. I just wouldn't. Some people will say that's That's unfair. And I'm just looking at the landscape of things today. They're not what we were.
Yeah, so that brings to another discussion. Should parents have access to their children's social media accounts? And I think that's important too, because I think for many, depending on knowing your personnel, your kids need to have phone checks. They should turn these phones in at like 9 o'clock when they go to bed. Put them on the parents' dresser or something, because it's a major concern. It's a major issue. It's a lack of sleep. It's cyberbullying. And it's different. It's different things like that that a lot of times it's difficult to get through the school day because you're dealing with stuff like that. So how about that? Because we didn't have that luxury. And I know people say, well, things have changed. That was back in the days. But when it's time to go to bed, it's time to go to bed. If you got a TV in your room and that helps you go to sleep, or whatever the case is, then whatever. That's something that the household or parents had to figure out. But the phone, when it's time to go to bed, place that shit on the parents' dresser. Come get it in the morning, or whatever the case is, because a lot of stuff go on after hours while you sitting there. These kids got all types of shit going on, and not saying that I did that, but you know your child, and yeah, a lot of stuff goes on, whether it's the pictures, the nudes, and all of that type of stuff, whatever. It's probably when you not being watched. So yeah, I think for some, they probably should have access to it, because they're doing too much. Too many things are being said, and I'm telling y'all, like, they need to stiffen up with all these threats, with kids saying they're gonna shoot up the school and do all of this stuff. All of this stuff need to be taken more serious. But parents probably should have access to it, and they should probably do a phone check every couple days, just to see what's being posted and all that, because they'll be surprised the stuff that's said in the group chats and stuff like that. Like, these kids, it's totally different. But a lot of parents, say, no, not my child. My child this, my child that. Nah, I keep saying that. I've been saying that for years on this platform. If you drop them off, or if they get on if they leave for the bus stop after you go to work, once their last interaction with you, they become a different individual. And that's just something for y'all to wake up to.
I agree. Them kids should turn in their cell phones. That's a good idea. Because they will be up all hours of the night, not get sleep, didn't even do their homework, don't have their clothes ready, don't wake up on time, don't make their bed in the morning because they're in a rush. Back in the day, even with the phone on the wall, I couldn't use it after 8:30. 8:30, it was time to, do what I had to do, settle into bed. My bedtime was 9 o'clock for the longest. Then I had to beg in like 10th grade for it to be 9:30. And then in 12th grade, I had to beg for it to be 10 o'clock. Oh, it was bad. But nowadays it's even worse with this cell phone crap. I don't even think kids should bring their cell phone to school. We all survived without cell phones back in the day.
I'm not opposed to a child having their phone brought to school with them, but what I will say is this: it should be in the locker.
Right?
The only time it should be allowed out is during recess and lunch. But and I know there's this. I want to say it was East Aurora that was implementing a phone ban. I'm not sure. I saw it on the news recently, and I
I
was
think
like,
that's
hey,
society wise, the country wise, they're trying to do that. They got a lot of different pilot programs and stuff that kids, as soon as they walk in the classroom, they have to turn in their cell phones to the
Yeah.
teacher. They got all types of like different pilot programs going, but they're trying to eliminate cell phones in school like that.
yeah, because just some of the parents that they think it's a birthright for their kids to have access to them. We were taught, hey, look, if you need to speak to your child, you call the school. The school will call the classroom and have that child come down and you can speak to them. So the problem, and I hate talking about problems without addressing the root cause of a problem. And the root cause is the parent. Because no child that I know can afford to go out and buy a $300 or $400 phone bill and pay a monthly bill. Go and buy a $300 or $400 phone and pay the monthly bill to operate that phone. That comes strictly from the parents. So the parents are the enablers in all this. The parents are, they're at the crossroads of this, which leads back to what you were talking about. Do parents need to go to jail? Somebody's got to be held responsible for damages done by a kid. And if all this is being precipitated because kids are able to coordinate, then you remove that. All of a sudden now, these kids really don't have a choice but to do what they're told. Because if they don't, then they're ostracized for 18. Being ostracized is probably the worst thing that can happen to them because they're no longer a part. And some people will say, well, yeah, that sets them up to be bullied. Bullied by who? If all the parents are walking the same line, then no one's being bullied because nobody has an advantage over the other. The problem comes in where all the parents aren't on the same page. One parent will say, well, my child gets straight A's, so you know what? This is their reward. Okay, they get straight A's until they don't get straight A's. And when they don't get straight A's, you'll say, well, I never knew that my child was like this. Well, as David said, no, because they know your schedule. They know you're plotting and scheming. And hey, if we get 4 people together, we all get straight A's. As long as we keep what we doing quiet, guess what? They don't know. So we going to go around the corner. We going to huff on this paint, or we going to find somebody, especially if they got a female with them. These kids nowadays, if they got a female with them, if she's 16, 17, she can con some dumbass dude, and they're going to buy her alcohol. So guess now what? They all drinking underage. One thing leads to another, and somebody done caught a case. And they'll say, well, why was she with 3 other guys and they were skipping class? And where did they get the alcohol from? And next thing you know, somebody's on the sex offender registry. All because they were able to coordinate.
And see, one of the things I also always talk about, like none of this shit is aligned with each other. You have the helicopter parents, middle school, high school, and they get to college, and you say, oh, you have the parents that say, oh, I put all this money away for savings for college and all that stuff. And I always talk about it. The great Dave Ramsey said, don't put your money into savings for your kids to go to college because it's not guaranteed. It is not guaranteed. Like if they don't perform and they get caught out there, then you had all this money you put into it and they get academically dismissed. Your ass out of all that money. And also you don't have the rights that you have in high school, middle school as far as their records.
Yeah.
But you're paying tuition and all that stuff. But it's a chance you don't even know what their grades are if they don't tell you. If they intercept the mail and that shit, who knows? They probably don't even mail out transcripts and stuff like that how they used to. Your grades, it's probably electronically. So you're paying this or paying that, and you have no knowledge of what's going on because they're over 18, and it's up to you. It's up to them to share it, and you wonder why. Back in the days, a lot of people were dismissed from school. You would send them off, but they wasn't registered.
Yeah.
They were hanging out in that on that campus, just chilling.
Yes, sir. I can tell you about that. Yes, sir. Easy to do.
Yeah. And you had no idea. So it's not aligned with each other. The things that happen. I think everything should be aligned with each other. And I've been saying that for years, even in high school. You can't have 50 grades as a senior and an opportunity to get A's and B's, but then you step to the next level and you have 4 or 5 grades. Because in high school, you have many opportunities. Oh, you can make up the work, you can do this and that. That's like falsehood when you get to college. And you have 4 or 5 grades. You better do something. You better score well on that paper, that midterm grade, those 2 exams. You better do something. And a lot of times, high school and college, it doesn't intertwine. It's totally different, and that's why a lot of people may not be successful once they get to college. But they don't want to talk about that. That in college you only have 4 or 5 grades for the whole semester, and in high school you have 50 grades and shit, whatever.
Ball game.
Yeah, so it's all cap, but they don't want to talk about that though. 50 compared to 5 grades. Figure it out, people. Oh yeah, lucky I'm still working in the system, but once I get out, I'm dropping it all.
Yeah, it's for a lot of people who didn't struggle academically in high school, getting to college and getting a less than stellar grade, that's earth shattering to them. They've never had to deal with not getting A's. And this goes back to what we were talking about the first part, which is the growth. What do they do? How do they handle that? Do they buckle down? Do they speak to the professor, or do they call home and say, Mom, what do I do? Or Dad, I don't know what to do. And if that parent has never been to college, and that parent really is at a loss to tell that student, hey, you're in the big leagues now. No one's coming to save you. So if you don't seek out a tutor or partner with somebody in that class who understands what's going on, or you don't do the necessary reading because you're too caught up in getting your back blown on, or you're too caught up in trying to blow some shorty back out. How do you handle all this newfound freedom, all this newfound time? The lack of structure because you never understood the value of planning. You taking 15 credit hours and all your classes are in the morning, back to back to back, so you don't get any rest. You're not eating right. All of a sudden, now your health is suffering. Your mental health is under attack. You're saying, "Damn, I can't deal with this. Who do I talk to?" You don't get along with your roommate. I mean, there's a whole lot that that could go wrong in college, and it can go wrong very quickly. You can find yourself within the first 2 or 3 weeks, like David said, you get that first test back, and hopefully you're not in the class where it's graded on the curve. Because if it's graded on the curve, and what you think is a good score turns out to be a shit score, and you got to deal with this the rest of that semester, oh hell, you in trouble. You in trouble, boy. I'm telling you.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot, and I'm gonna, this has something to do with it. Yeah, we're gonna talk about this too. I'm gonna throw this out there. And I forgot. It's this comedian. I forgot his name. I think it's Schuler or something. King Schuler or something. And it has a lot to talk about. It has something to deal with these parents coming out in public with their pajamas on and things of that nature in grocery stores and all that. Like, are y'all freaking kidding me? Are you freaking kidding me? Like, if I go out, no matter where I go, I'm probably throwing on something. I'm ironing it, and I don't care if it's just running to the store for errands. When have we got to the point that you walk out with your pajamas on? They freaking wore out in the ass area from you wearing them so much, and y'all think that's cool. But what reminded me of, like I said, I think his name King Schuler. He had posted this with some parent at the bus stop with some pajamas on or something, but her whole ass cheeks was hanging out in front of kids. When do you say I'm embarrassing my child? Like, I'm coming up here with pajamas on and you're not looking presentable. How is that a thing? I know grandparents and your mother and all that stuff rolling over in their grave. But how is that acceptable? Because the one thing that comedian said, he said if it was a guy halfway indecent exposed,
shoot,
he would get arrested.
Yep.
He would get arrested if he's around kids. So it's okay for women to come out, titties popping out, ass cheek hanging out, even though it's decayed and all, all jacked up, but it's okay. What message is that sending?
The same message as when the guys go to the store or the school with their underwear hanging, their pants below their butt. I'm like, I don't want to see that. I don't want my 7-year-old nephew seeing that.
I don't see that too often like that in
I
schools.
I see that all the time. Especially when I was bringing my niece when she was going to Abbott Elementary School. Yeah, there was all kinds of garbage being shown there. Women and men. I'm like, oh my goodness.
You make it seem like it's 50-50. It ain't.
It is.
Nah.
I think the major difference when you look at things like that.
Well, I guess, sorry to cut you off, Herb. I guess it also depends on what kind of school you go to. If it's an upper class school, I think that's
Does it
less
matter?
of a thing. What was that?
Does it matter? If you respect the boy, you present yourself well, you gonna no matter as a parent, you gonna always step your game up.
Well, right. I'm saying if the kids are going to say a private school or they live in a upscale community where their school is in an upscale area, they know how to be more appropriate, step out in public more appropriate. Yeah.
Well,
Not with Section 8 and all that stuff, whatever. Is a such thing is that like people can live wherever they want to live nowadays.
I think to what you're saying, Anita, it becomes more of a class issue as opposed to anything else.
Right.
So when you have people who live in districts that are well-to-do, they understand that they have a public image to maintain, whereas people who don't have a public image or who aren't concerned about a public image, they don't care. This is why you see.
Correct.
I'm gonna draw some heat for this comment, but I don't give a damn. This is why when you see people walking around in bonnets, dropping their kids off, they say, "Well, I don't care. At least my kid's going to school." Yes, okay, yes, they're going to school, but damn, when they get home, what are they walking into? Are they walking into an environment that's conducive for them to learn and to understand that, when they get of age to potentially reproduce, that they want to send their children out into the world with some type of decorum? Or do you not care? They'll make their mind up when they get there. No. You've already imprinted in them an expectation. It goes back to the whole blank slate theory. The blank slate theory says I can take a child and make that child whatever I want to. Well, if you are subliminally, by your actions, and putting into this child that an appearance doesn't matter, then guess what this child is going to emulate? Something that doesn't matter. So they're going to get out of bed, wrinkled clothes, breath smelling. They ain't taken a shower in 2 days, and they think that's okay. And then they go around people who are not of their life or not of their ilk, and they're going to say, yo, he smell. I don't want to hang around him. Teacher, can you move me to another seat? Why? Why? And they don't want to embarrass the person, but the teachers put them on the spot. And then they say, well, because he smells. And all of a sudden now, you got a kid who's getting bullied. And what happens if that kid doesn't have I'm sorry, Dave, let me finish this. What happens if that kid doesn't have a good temperament and he wants to fight? All of a sudden now, because this kid doesn't know how to handle this situation, he's fighting with a kid that wanted to be moved, but the teacher put him on the spot. And now he had to embarrass this person. And now you got a whole situation that could have been avoided had this child been raised in a manner that was conducive with what society deems acceptable.
Especially with like white children or children with like white people hair, when they go to school looking greasy. Oh my goodness, that is like, they get called scuzz bucket, scummy. But I don't understand why their parents would allow their hair to look all like that anyway, unkept, unclean, greasy, knowing that you can tell their hair hasn't been washed in days. It's sad.
One of the things is kids they start coming to school with pajama pants on, slippers and stuff
Oh
like
my God.
and you know where they got it from. You know where they got it from. If you're about business and you're always about business, kids see that, especially if you're successful. Barely seldom do someone they totally buck against that,
Right.
because they have structure in place and they know, like, no, I can't do that, or my dad or whatever the case is don't allow that. Even sometimes you may have a husband or something, that he's always professional, and and it could be vice versa. Um, he may be dealing with someone that may have a little more hood, but sooner or later, you would hope his influence weighs on that she wouldn't go to the school with a bonnet on, with her pajama pants, or whatever the case is. But we can't say there's no absolutes, because again, it's about the influence that she has with the people she still roll with. Because they'll try to convince her, like, girl, I wouldn't pay no attention to this, oh, uppity ass, or whatever. If you ain't got time to do that, I don't. I always go there with my bonnet and pajamas on. I ain't got to get you. I ain't trying to impress anybody and all that. Depends on the individual, like what matters to you the most. But all of these different scenarios or subject matters is a lot of times circumstance, situations, upbringing, mindset, growth over comfort. Again, even this whole thing about the way you come out in public. Sometimes I'm just trying to be comfortable. You just never know who you're going to run into while you looking like that. Or is it growth? Like, I'm gonna always take the time when I step out. I don't care if I'm running to the damn dollar store or whatever the case is, Walmart, Target, something. I'm gonna always look presentable, so I don't have to look all crazy. In this day and age, you want to do that anyway because of social media. You never know who snapping pictures of your ass and you post it. Just something to think about, folks. It's a lot of different things out there. And hey, I didn't cover what I wanted to cover. I did mention about immigrants and all that stuff, but I don't know if y'all want to take it there.
I mean, you know, we Anita talked about the situation. I said it was class. So with this influx of new students coming in, not only are our American students going to have to deal with um, different customs and cultures, they're going to have to adjust to a new group of people. Now, I don't know how all this is going to shake out, and this is really going to, be determined by where you are in the country. Because if you're in the southwest portion of the United States, this is going to hit harder than it is if you're, say, in the upper Midwest or the plain states, where more than likely you're not going to have that kind of influx. So the cultural impact will be significantly less. If you're in cities like Los Angeles, you've already been experiencing this. If you're in certain locations in New York City, like Harlem, uptown, the Bronx, you've already experienced this. If you're in places like Miami or certain parts of Florida, you've already experienced this. Same thing with Texas. So you're already experiencing, or your students, your children have already experienced what that's going to be like. And a lot of people, they say, oh, what's a 10 million people influx in a country of 330 million? Ask your children how their day went. Ask your children what it's like to be in a class where something's being spoken and they're the object of ridicule. The only thing is they don't know. All of a sudden now, as opposed to being the one who's looked at and held in high regard because of the grades that they have, maybe the clothing that they wear, or the food that they're being picked at. Oh, you don't know what a taquito is, or you don't know what this is. How do you eat that stuff? Oh, that stuff smells disgusting. I see it where I work at, and I'm telling you, it is at our front doors. And if you don't open your door and take a look around and see what's going on in your community or see what's going on in the rest of the country, you will be blindsided by it.
It's definitely a lot going on to that. And I'm not even gonna go into details as far as my school district, but it's a lot. It's a lot. And I don't know. You can kind of take it on two ways. You take it on different levels to give people opportunities to have a better life, but also you can look at the conflict that it may cause for people that's already here. So I guess it's bigger than us, but it's a lot to it. But I don't think the powers to be and all that stuff, they don't really have no plan. They really don't have no plan for it. So a lot of stuff is kind of like drive-by stuff. Oh, we'll just do this and do that. But they really haven't planned for anything. That's what I'm finding out, even by working at a new school. It's just fly by the seat of your pants.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the case with a lot of situations. Again, it also depends on who the individual is and how you handle it and how you respond to it. So we have a lot of things going on, a lot of things going down the pipe, and again, it depends on how you react to it. I'm gonna always try to be even kill and try to read and react, not react and read.
You got some people that they're not capable of doing that, and generally, from what I've seen, it's those children of those parents who suffer the most because they don't learn that necessary skill on how to not overreact to every situation and being proactive. So when you get those two together, it's a volatile mix, and those are generally the ones who end up fighting. They got the parents at home, and everything is boom, boom, boom. Every situation they're hammering its nail. No delicacy. Oh, no delicacy. They can't be delicate with it.
And finally, this will be the last one. This was a question this was something that, as I was looking at stuff or information, and it's definitely controversial, and it's definitely depends on the situation. But it was something I came across, and it said, "Who is more important in the family, the father or the mother?"
Woo! All right, let's say
I don't think there's any more important over the other. You need both parents. I think you need both parents for an even upbringing, because they both bring different examples and teachings to the environment, to children's lives.
That's not always the case with every situation.
It's not right. It's not always the case, but thinking of it in a general subject, it I think there's no importance over the other, given that both parents are sane, I guess, and actually present in
you-
their children's lives.
You're looking at a utopia type of situation,
Ah.
and that's not the case.
Yeah, I know.
Ah, man. This is a question that has been asked before, and the way it was answered pissed a lot of people off. So they said, what are the results of the children when raised in respective homes? The ideal situation: two parents gave the best results. Followed second by a single father. Coming in third was a single mother. Given that premise, one would have to say the father's more important. And I'll add to it: men, comparatively speaking, instill structure and discipline more so than women. If you have a child who needs that structure, who thrives in structure, and they need to be disciplined, more often than not, a male figure is going to impose that more so than a female figure. And like I said, I know it's going to piss some people off. Don't argue with me. Go talk to the people who put the results out. I'm just the messenger.
Yeah, I would have to partly disagree with that. Women are the first nurturers, and I see, regardless of what the statistics say, I see a lot of women, especially if they're raising their child or children, that they do have the nurturing part and the structure part, especially if you have a female or a daughter, I'll say. There's a lot of things that dads can't, I'll say, teach a daughter or explain to the daughter because they don't know, such as, periods and puberty and all that. They can't, they don't know from their experience, but a mother does. But on the flip side of that, dads are important. I mean, both parents are important. I don't necessarily agree that a single dad is better than a single mom. There's a lot of, and there are some good single dads, but from what I've seen here in the city, well, I guess it depends on what part of the city and how you were brought up. Nowadays, since marijuana is legal, there's dads smoking weed with their children.
That's
That
not new. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
that it's not new. No. Not only that, but I'll say when I go to Walmart, equally, I smell women smelling like a whole marijuana field. It's disgusting. They're not setting a good example for their children or their young family members is nasty. So I guess it would depend on, for me, it depends on what I see. I don't necessarily always go by statistics. And that's that.
Yeah, and you and the point that you had made is you said if it's a female raising a daughter, but you ain't say a female raising a son. And how would
I
that look?
right. A female raising a son equally. She can't teach that son everything that a dad can teach a son. In which I obviously think that the dad is just important in that son's life to teach. Like, I don't know about sons and puberty. I could never explain it, or because I haven't experienced it. I would not know or understand how to have that conversation. I know how to teach them to play soccer.
Now,
Yeah,
I guess one of the bigger things we have to look at is imagine if you had a single woman and you had a single dad on the up and up, and who would bring in the best likable partner to help fill that void? Would the guy bring in a female that's better quality and kind of, offset his deficiencies, or would a woman bring in a quality guy that would balance her out? Which one? What do y'all think?
can you say that? Can you say that again?
oh,
A woman,
ahead.
a man on the up and up, bringing in a woman that
Would balance off his deficiencies, or a woman bringing in a quality guy that would offset her deficiencies? Which one is more likable to bring in someone that like would fill in the blanks?
You gonna answer, Nita, or you want me to?
I'm thinking.
Well, while you do
Well,
that,
I believe with, I'll say, single mothers. If that child doesn't have a dad present or not actively in that life, and she brings in a quality man, and that man is interacting with that child will probably be, I wouldn't say probably, but just talking from some guys that I know who didn't have the father in their life, but the mother had a good father figure for them. That father figure played with them, taught them how to build stuff, changed oil, the car oil, la-di-da, etc. So, I mean, from my opinion, personally, I think both would be good.
You dancing, Anita. Herb, go to your
No,
next.
I'm not. I'm saying I think both would fill a void in that child's life, given that the other person is active and knows how to treat the child and bring something to that child's life, and not just the parent's life.
Okay.
it's
I think both parents are. I mean, a dad is important in a daughter's life too. But if two people are staying in a marriage or in a relationship in the same household just to have a 2-parent household, and those parents don't get along, that could also be detrimental to the child too, because the child's not seeing what it is to have a healthy relationship.
We're not
Well,
talking
that,
about that though.
yeah, but that's seeing a functional, healthy relationship does not mean that that child is going to actually pick well. And that's what the question is asking. And it's, while some people may say it's straightforward, there's going to be a lot that goes into that. Number one is education. People who have at least a bachelor's tend to choose better mates because they're more selective. So if we're going to start out with people who have obtained at least a bachelor's and we move to a master's and a doctorate, the higher up that educational scale you go, the better off they are going to be in picking mates. Now, that is only, I think, about baseline. I think that's about 20, 23, 25% of the population in the United States overall, regardless of ethnicity. So
That
that
has
means
a bachelor's degree.
at least a
Wow.
bachelor's. So we're looking at 75% of the population who does not, regardless if they have an associate's or not, which would include me. Most women do not choose a mate based on what their child needs. They choose a mate based on how that mate makes them feel. And that's the danger that a lot of women fall prey to, is because they'll get to a certain situation at which they feel okay with a particular mate, and then they will say they've outgrown that mate. And then they'll search for a new one. I'm sure most people have never heard of the term called monkey branching, but this is what they say women will do. They will hold on to this one till they get to the next one, and then get to the next one. Whereas men in the same class or educational bracket tend to choose a woman who's going to help him in areas that he lacks, especially if he has a child and a female child. He's going to say, okay, you know what? I have a 7-year-old daughter. She's only going to get older. I'm going to pick a woman who, at least from what I understand and know and want of a woman, she behaves in a feminine way. She can teach my daughters the basics of what it means to be a female. So all those gender things that you mentioned, Anita, she's going to be able to teach. Remember the one situation I told you about when I was at work and I had a woman come down?
Yep, I remember.
And ask me about what kind of feminine product should a teenage girl use. Case in point, that stuff happens. There's absolutely no way that a woman should be asking a man that type of question when she should, via experience, be able to answer that question. So it happens. It's
That was a weird situation.
I concur, but nonetheless, it happened. And this is go ahead.
It's weird because I don't know any woman that can't use a pad, but I know women that can't use a tampon.
Well, it wasn't
So,
that. It wasn't that.
no, I know what the situation was, but I don't understand why she didn't. Yeah, I don't understand why she didn't know that.
Hey, all I can tell you is that it was when she asked it, I was looking for the camera. I'm like, am I being punked or is this some wild? And I told her, I said, oh, man, it's going to depend on what she's comfortable with, and that ultimately is going to determine. Let me give people the background on the story. I was at work, and I'm not going to mention the ethnicity of the woman. She came down looking for feminine products. Hotel, we give them away for free because things happen. So I presented her with both pad and a tampon, and she inquired as to which one should she give to the child. I asked how old was the child? I think the child was like 13, 14, 15, 16, somewhere around there. And I explained to her, I said, ma'am, I said, I don't know personally. I said, but whatever she feels comfortable with is what you're going to give her. My suggestion is take both and let her try.
Right.
So when people say that men don't know about female issues or they can't teach them of this, or I'm just like, you know what? You haven't been around the correct, knowledgeable man. So I would believe that men would do an overall better job, and not necessarily because it's a gender issue, but because the criteria that men select for is different than what women select for. Men generally are selecting long term. Women, not so much. This is why you see a lot of women 10, 15 years into a marriage, they're quote unquote not happy, so they're looking for a divorce. Rarely do you hear a man say he's not happy in a marriage, even if he isn't. Because men will endure certain things for their child, for their children.
Okay. And I can't wait to post that clip and see what happens with it. Do you have anything else? Because I think it's looking at my Gucci. It's about that time. Got a lot of trinkets, man.
What's that mean, Herbert? You're trying to have white face?
No, it's not. Unfortunately, with the computer,
I'm
because
just
it's
joking.
it's a glow in the dark mask, but with the light reflecting off of the computer, I can get the I am your
You gotta
subscribe. We're coming to get you. I am the black version of Freddy, or is it Jason?
Jason.
Any closing comments?
I might walk
Herbert.
around a Halloween with some fluorescent stuff on, man, with a chasing people. And I get arrested, y'all know why.
Oh my goodness.
No, man.
Yeah, I had a closing comment. I totally forgot now. Totally forgot. Herbert, thank you.
Don't mention it. Time for pizza and wings. You already know how I get down. Portion control, of course.
Where you get your pizza and wings from?
You know what? Tops had a sale, so I went and snatched $1 off. I got some turkey pepperoni and my wings and lemon pepper. I got them from down the street, so I'm gonna throw about 6 or 7 of those in there. Half a pizza and my Jamaican Me Happy. And oh, speaking of which, movie review. One Love, the Bob Marley movie, was actually pretty good. I didn't have any preconceived notions about what the movie was going to tell. There were a couple scenes in that movie that were eye-opening, especially if you haven't seen it. I'm not going to give you a spoiler, although I don't know if a movie like this has one, where Bob is stomping somebody out, and it's like, oh shit. So if you can, go to your local library, get your library card, of course, if you don't have one, and pick it up in the free rentals, man. Pop it in, watch it. Matter of fact, I'll probably go down to the local library tomorrow and see what other new releases they have and pick one up. Generally, I watch a movie after the podcast because I got the time and I'm kind of lively. But we'll see.
Has anybody seen Coach Carter?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm about to watch that. It was suggested that I watch it. I don't know.
Depends on if you'd like those type of movies.
I don't know what it's about except for basketball. I don't mind watching basketball. But I assume since somebody told me to watch it, there's a lesson in that movie, right?
There is, but it's more than a basketball movie. I would liken it to Hoosiers in terms of what it teaches. Yeah, I mean, especially when you given what we just talked about, with parents and kids, not having structure and coming into school doing what they want to and being defiant. Absolutely, it's well worth watching.
All right, cool. I forgot my closing comments. Giving Herb's white face.
Herb, you got anything to close out with?
Nah, man, I'm good. I am set.
All right.
Good discussion. See you next time.
Yep, people,
All right,
y'all
all
take
right.
care.
Yep.
Wings and things.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna let Herb get to his wings and thing, but growth over comfort depends on where you at. I mean, if you're not satisfied with what you're doing and what you got going on, you're gonna look for other challenges to grow. If you're someone that just Neanderthal through life and like, hey, I'm good, you don't seek nothing else, then you're gonna choose comfort. But sooner or later, it depends on it. Also, when you think about relationship wise, you may have someone that's always trying to take on new challenges, and certainly they're not going to want a person that like da la di da di da da. They okay. That's not going to spark their interest. So but that may not be your thing, because remember, what we see now on social media and conversations is, I'm happily single. I could spend the rest of my life by myself. Things like that are being put out there, but who knows? It depends on the individual. I'm not going to hate or discredit anybody on what their growth or comfort is. I know for me, I'm always looking for the next challenge. So sometimes I don't get right to it, but I know right now it's that time to get to it, because guess what, people? What they say, most people, you work your life, you retire, then you die shortly after. So if you're getting toward that time of retirement, you probably need to be thinking about your next challenges to keep that brain flowing, keep that brain going. Because once it becomes mute and you sit there and it shuts down, shit, everything else probably gonna shut down. Then you die after that. Not in all cases, but in I don't have the percentages. Y'all not gonna get percentages out of me, because it'll be somebody say, "What's the percentages?" Whatever. Nah, you ain't gonna get that shit out of me. But trust and believe that I can tell you that it's been people been in that situation. They retired and they died shortly after that.
Yeah, nothing to look forward to, nothing to do. And in the organization, the Lions Club, there are a lot of older people who were volunteering, and I think, as David alluded to, that keeps them going. That's why I always talk about volunteering and establishing that network, because it always gives you something to look forward to. You have a lot
Gives you a purpose.
Yeah, you have a lot of older women that play bridge. They get together, and it's something to look forward to.
Oh, I know what I was going to say. I'm so proud of myself that I got up and got ready and went to that social painting today by myself because I was really sad and uncomfortable because I really wanted it to be a family thing. And if it wasn't, I really wanted to take my 7-year-old nephew. And things just didn't go that way today. And I was upset and sad because I kind of got into it. And anyway, I decided, well, I'm going to go anyway. And I came out with a great painting. So I was pushed myself to get up and do it anyway. And I was proud of myself.
Strange.
What'd you say?
Strong J. Strong.
It's just a little saying from a Boomerang. Was it Boomerang? Yeah, it was from Boomerang, the movie. That's all. Don't worry about it unless you want to go back and watch Boomerang.
I like that movie.
Okay, so you know what it is.
That's the movie with the toes, right? You
Yes,
pull
it
back
is.
the cover and her toes
Yeah.
were like
Yeah.
raccoon feet.
Yep. That's the part that stick out to you because you so wild about toes.
That's right. Footfinder.com.
Mm,
Making the greenbacks.
mm. Yeah, I guess people are posting their feet and making good money.
That's why I can't post my feet publicly. I don't want nobody to be looking at them for free.
What? I wonder if I could get paid because I don't show my feet. I wonder if I could get paid by posting my feet.
Mm,
I don't know because there's a lot. I might because there's a lot of dudes, whatever, that our age group, feet just crusted, corroded, gangrene, nails hanging up, but they don't mind wearing slides and shit like that.
Yeah,
with,
man.
all that shit, with all that shit showing. It's crazy to me.
there's different levels of fetishes, different levels of foot fetishes.
Yeah, gangrene.
I'll just
fingernails.
say, I'll just put that out there.
Take your word for it. Because I ain't doing it.
I'm not having nobody Goo Gaga over my feet for free. I need the greenbacks.
All right, people. All right, we gonna close it out. We might open up the next show talking about feet. I doubt that.
Fetishes.
Hey,
All right, man. Y'all take care.
All right, y'all.
All right.
Be easy. Talk to y'all next time.
All right.
On to the next
Yep.
one. Peace.